All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, first I'm going to start off with a general explanation of Memorial University, and then we're going to jump in to specifically talk about the Bachelor of Fine Arts. Um, So I'll talk a little bit about the location first. We are located in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. For those of you not familiar with the geography of Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador is a small island province just off the east coast of Canada. If you look at the map of Canada, I forgot to include a slide with a picture of the map. There's a little H-shaped island just off the east coast. That's us. We actually have two campuses in the province. One in the city of St. John's, that's our larger campus, as well as in the city of Corner Brook, we also have the Grenville Campus, and that's where I'll be focusing most of my attention for this session. Just to give a little bit more information about Newfoundland, we have a population of about 500,000 across the entire island. So we are fairly rural compared to, say, Toronto or Vancouver or Quebec or places like that. However, we do have a number of advantages over some of these urban centers. Number one is climate. So if you go to places like Ottawa or Quebec or Vancouver, well, not so much Vancouver. Vancouver actually has quite nice weather. But if you go to anywhere in like central Canada, you're looking at some pretty extreme temperature ranges, sometimes as low as minus 30, even minus 40 in very, very extreme cases. Obviously, being in Canada, it still gets quite cold in Newfoundland. However, compared to these other places, our temperatures do tend to be a bit more moderate. Right now, winter this time of year, average daily temperatures between minus 10 and 0 degrees, which obviously is still quite cold, but again, you are looking at a fair bit warmer than other parts of the country. We actually have an expression here that there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. So what we do is we do encourage students to, kind of look past the climate a little bit, because obviously that, might be a little bit of maybe a turnoff from coming to Canada. But when you look at like the possibilities of getting out and enjoying and experiencing this sort of new sort of environment, really the positives outweigh the negatives, and it's very easy to adapt as long as you come prepared. And the university is able to kind of prepare you for that by providing services and providing winter clothing and these sorts of things to kind of help you adapt to your new environment. Summer is a fair bit warmer, usually between 20 and 30 degrees. Again, I realize that's probably a little bit cooler than maybe what you're used to for summer temperatures. However, our summers are very, very humid, which means that even though the temperature may only be 20 to 23 degrees on a day, it may actually feel a little bit more like 30 plus just because of the humidity and the way that the heat works here. So because we have all four seasons, winter, summer, fall, and spring, you can kind of come to Newfoundland any time of the year and experience four completely different environments just because of the way that the landscape changes and the way that the climate changes the environment here. So that that is something to really look forward to in terms of what you'll see when you get here. Relative to larger cities, we are also significantly safer, more welcoming. Canada, I think, as a country on whole, has a very positive reputation of being a very safe, very multicultural sort of country. Newfoundland is like Canada's Canada in that if Canada is the safest country, we are basically the safest part of Canada. Growing up in the city of Corner Brook, where there's only about 20,000 people, I mean, I can walk down the street. I maybe know, half the people that I see out in public. Half the time growing up, I didn't lock my doors. Our crime rate is virtually non-existent. Our violent crime rate is even lower. It's a very, very, very safe place. It's not uncommon to just strike up a conversation with total strangers out in public. It's a very, very safe, very welcoming sort of place for newcomers, especially. Another advantage of Newfoundland and Labrador is that we do currently offer the lowest tuition rates in Canada for international students. I'll get a little bit more into the specific numbers later in the presentation near the end, but I do want to just kind of explain a little bit about why our tuition is so low. So in Canada, we don't actually have a national department of education. It's not decided by the federal government. The rates or the costs of education. It's determined at the provincial level. Because Newfoundland has a fairly low population, our government is really, really invested in increasing immigration and increasing international student presence. So what they've done is they've funded, they provide a large amount of funding, to our post-secondary institutions, both MUN and College of the North Atlantic. And what that does is it enables us to keep our tuition low. So even though you're only paying about 11,460 Canadian dollars a year for tuition, for every dollar that you spend, that's basically being matched by the provincial government, who are basically trying to encourage more international students to come and to immigrate to the region. The other advantage with that is that in our immigration policies, you'll find similar sorts of advantages. Where we have access to things like the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. So basically what that means is that when you graduate, provided that you can find employment and an employer who's willing to sponsor you, you can have your PR process within as little as 1 year post-graduation. And you can take that towards your citizenship, or if you get your PR, you can use that to, if you, let's say that you want to pursue graduate level studies, you can actually use that and pay Canadian rates as opposed to international rates. So there's a few advantages there. So that's just a little bit about Newfoundland more generally. What I'm going to talk about next is the difference between our two campuses. So first, I'll talk about St. John's. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it right now. I will tell you that there's about 15,000 students in a city of 100,000 people. It is where most of our programs are offered in the arts, business, engineering. The whole list is there on the screen. I'll let you read that rather than parroting off what's on the screen there. That is where most of our programs are offered. However, the fine arts program, which is the focus of today's, is not actually offered at the St. John's campus. If you do want to learn a little bit more about St. John's, we do have another session in about 2 hours' time with my coworker, Mr. Keir McIsaac. He'll be talking more in depth about the St. John's campus. The focus I'd like to get on, though, is the Grenville Campus. It's actually where I'm based. Well, right now I'm based from my home because of COVID-19, but normally I would be working from my office here on campus. A few things about our school. Number one is that we do have a small student population of 1,400, and what that does is it translates to small class sizes. So in your first year, you may find that your classes will typically be around 30 students. First year psychology, first year business, first year math may go up to about 70 or 80, but typically your first year classes, 30 is a pretty typical average. Beyond first year, if a class size goes above 17, it's very, very rare. I'm a graduate of Grenville myself. I completed the history program. My smallest class had 4 students in it, and we were all on a first name basis. We got to know each other really well. But more importantly than that, we got to know our professors really, really well. I'm still on a first name basis with the professors that I had when I did the program, and I still regularly stay in touch with them, and that's great for getting that individualized attention in the classroom. But it's also great if you're looking, for example, for student employment, or if you're looking to have a reference for grad school or for your CV. It's really, really easy to kind of get along with your professors when you're one of, say, 10 students versus, say, one of 300 students in a more traditional university. In terms of what we offer for programming, we do offer a number of programs in the arts, including history, history, English. We offer minors in French. We offer social cultural studies, most of the basic programs there. We offer a Bachelor of Business Administration, fine arts, which I'll go more in depth on in a few minutes, the sciences, nursing, and if you came to my earlier presentation, we also offer a program in environment sustainability. However, I'm going to focus mainly on the Bachelor of Fine Arts today. There are 2 streams, and within one of those streams, there are 2 sub-streams. So the Bachelor of Fine Arts is offered through visual arts and theater. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those separately and some of the opportunities that they offer. So first off, we'll start with the Visual Arts BFA. It's kind of a multidisciplinary approach. It's not just, you're not just coming in for painting or just coming in for sculpting. You're going to dabble in a lot of these different areas in a number of different ways. So you'll do a little bit of drawing, painting, sculpting. Again, the list is there on the screen. I won't go through every single individual thing that's there, but each of these things, may manifest themselves in a particular course. You may have a course that's just dedicated to sculpting, or a course that's just dedicated to printmaking, for example. Or you may have a more thematic course. So, for example, a few years ago, there was a course offered. I don't know if it's still offered. There was a course offered in politics in art. And most of it was about art history and the ways in which politics and art kind of fuse together throughout time. But in terms of the actual assignments and the things that you could do in that course, the professor kind of gave free rein to with regards to the medium. So for example, if your specialty was sculpting, then and your final project was to represent politics through art, then you could do a sculpture as opposed to someone else who might do a painting or something of that sort. So there's a lot of different areas of art that you can dabble in with this degree. You do have access to on-campus studios, labs, and print shops. And one thing, if you are looking for student employment, a lot of the time the fine arts program does hire upper year students to work as assistants for these labs and for the studios and things like that. Whether that's as a studio cleaner, studio supervisor for the weekends or evenings, there's lots of different opportunities there. One thing that's really, really cool about this program is that there is an optional 12-week summer immersion program based in Harlow. So I mentioned earlier that we have 2 campuses. Technically, that's not true. We also have a campus based in England. If you do opt to take this program during one of the summers, usually between either your 2nd and 3rd or 3rd and 4th year, you can basically spend an entire summer in Harlow. You'll be, basically within range of lots of historical sites, museums, things of that sort. There's near daily field trips to all these different sites, and the professors will take you out and you'll have opportunities to really explore art in the UK. Upon completion of that optional program, you will receive 9 credits, which is the equivalent of 3 courses for participating, and those courses will count towards your graduation. So you can use that to reduce course load in another semester, or you can just have extra credits. It's up to you what your option is. Admission for this program is based on meeting general requirements and submitting a portfolio of your artwork. So typically, I believe the requirement now is 30 pieces of art to be submitted with your application. I'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the admission step. Normally, we would ask that you mail in a USB with images of that art. However, in light of COVID-19, we are accepting Google Drive and digital formats as opposed to the physical copies on a USB. So that is something I will address in the admission step. The other program I want to talk about is the BFA in theater. As I mentioned, there are 2 streams of the theater program. You have your acting stream, which kind of does what it says on the box. If you're looking to become an actor on stage, then that's the stream you want to take. The other stream, is more in technical theater and stagecraft. Both programs are 4 years, just as the BFA in visual arts is. But there are a number of different courses in acting, theater history, direction, technical design, production. Even if you're in one stream, you will dabble a little bit in the other, and vice versa. So there's a lot of different aspects of theater that you'll really touch on throughout the program. Beyond your first year, you will get to participate in annual productions. So usually the 3rd and 4th year classes, they will do some major productions, and they'll invite students in the year below to kind of step in and play roles within those. If you are interested in theater, then absolutely this is the kind of program that you're looking for. Unlike the VA program, where the Harlow aspect is optional, it's actually a mandatory component of the theater program. So during your usually your 3rd or 4th year again, you will be required to transfer to the Harlow campus for 1 semester, and you'll do a similar program to what the VA students do, except of course it'll be themed around theater as opposed to visual arts. Last thing I'll mention about theater is that admission is based on your academic requirements, but also it is based on an audition for the acting stream. So you will have to do a video audition if you're, if you're an international student, or if you're entering the technical stream, there's no audition. Instead, they do an interview. So you will have to do that again, probably through Zoom or a similar platform with the head of the department. So I'm going to talk a little bit about undergraduate admission. So the requirements that I've listed here are completion of the national Mexican curriculum with a minimum of 80 in the required subject areas. That would be English, mathematics, a lab science, a language or a social science, and then 1 elective. If you are missing math or the lab science, don't worry about it. We can waive that requirement and sub it with something else. If you studied in the IB curriculum instead, then you need a minimum overall score of 24 for admission. And then, of course, you would also need your English proficiency for the Mexican national curriculum. For IB, if you did it in English, then you don't need English proficiency. But the English proficiency requirement is 6.5 overall, with 6 in reading or writing, reading and writing, sorry, or an equivalent. So for example, we do accept Duolingo with a minimum score of 115, TOEFL with a minimum score of, I believe, 79, with 20 in reading and writing, 17 in speaking and listening, and a number of other particular tests and requirements like that. So if you have a different English proficiency test that you've done, let me know and I can look up the requirements for you. Again, with visual arts, you will need to submit your portfolio of artwork, and just kind of demonstrate what what your experience is. I said 30 earlier, it's 15 to 20. I apologize, I misremembered that. But 15 to 20 original pieces, usually sent by mail, though we are accepting it digitally, for the purpose of admission during COVID-19. Likewise with theater, you'll have your audition or your interview. Typically the audition will include a 3-minute monologue from a contemporary play. So again, you'll need to submit that to the head of the department. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to talk a little bit about money. Obviously, money is a major discussion point when you're applying to study abroad. Tuition at Memorial University, regardless of if you're at the St. John's or the Grenville campus, for 1 year of full-time study is 11,460 Canadian dollars. Again, that's based on 1 year full-time study, so that would be 5 courses from September to December and 5 courses from January to April. The costs of your accommodations, your meals, your ancillary fees, all of these things are all listed there. Factoring everything in together, your tuition, ancillary fees, meals, accommodations, books, supplies, and day-to-day living expenses. Typically, we would tell students to budget for between 21 and around 23,000 Canadian dollars. I have certainly seen students budget for less and have been fine. I've also seen students budget for significantly more because they have maybe a particularly lavish lifestyle. They like to go out and spend a lot of time on the town or spend a lot of money on food, that sort of thing. But typically, 21 to 23,000 Canadian dollars would be what you should expect to spend for 1 year of study with us. We do offer entry scholarships in the range of 3,000 to 12,000 Canadian dollars. They are exclusively based on academic merit, so they're only based on your grades. We don't look at extracurriculars or need or anything like that. When you apply, as long as you apply by March 1st, you're automatically going to be evaluated for scholarship eligibility. If you are in the top percentage of students, then you will be notified with your letter of acceptance if you are eligible for scholarships. If you don't receive a scholarship letter with your letter of acceptance, then unfortunately it means you weren't successful in receiving one. But again, if your grades are high, then that will come with the letter of acceptance. I should mention that I forgot to mention this with admissions. The deadline to apply is March 1st for the September intake. The Fine Arts program only has intakes in September, so if you want to apply, you have to apply by March 1st of the preceding, March 1st before the September that you're intending on starting. The application fee is 120 Canadian dollars, and then of course you would pay your tuition before the first day of class. So all of that would be there. If you do have any questions about tuition, of course, I'm happy to address those when we do the Q&A section afterwards. So that is basically the fast version of the Bachelor of Fine Arts and Memorial and St. John's and Grenville and all those little pieces. I will leave my contact information up here. I mainly represent the Grenville campus, so if you are looking for a program offered through Grenville, it's best to get in direct contact with me. I am able to help with some St. John's programs. However, like I said, because I mainly represent Grenville, it may be best to go directly through the St. John's campus for those. And their contact information is there on the screen as well. So what I'll do is I will leave this on the screen so anyone can take it down if they wish while we're doing the Q&A. I will open the floor to you folks, and if you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, or Roberto, I'm not sure if they can unmute or what have you, but I'm open to any questions that may come in.
Yeah, sure. We are following up all the questions and comments here. I am just typing in your contact information in the chat.
Perfect.
So they can copy and paste. There you go. A nuestros estudiantes, gracias por participar. A quienes se nos están uniendo también. Estamos dejando la información de contacto de Thomas aquí en el chat para, en caso de que quieran contactarlo directamente. Para cualquier pregunta o comentario. So we will start with the Q&A session. We've got a couple of questions here. The first one would be, what kind of advantages could I get if I am an IB student?
So there's no real advantage to being an IB student versus a non-IB student. The only advantage, I would say, is that typically if you studied in the IB curriculum, you usually don't need to present proof of English proficiency. Other than that, I mean, IB curriculum versus national curriculum, there really is no difference from an admission standpoint.
Okay, perfect. But just for them to know, it's like a simple and a standard application process, right?
Yeah, like the application process is going to be the same. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the application process is like, you go in online. The application itself takes 10-15 minutes to fill out. It's very, very quick. I can't bring one up on the screen here, but basically if I sit down and go through it, I can have it done in a few minutes. Once you get to the end, you will pay the 120 Canadian dollar application fee. And then after that fee is paid, you'll have the option of attaching your documents to the application itself. The documents that you attach to the application are considered unofficial if you submit them yourself, unless there's a way to check to verify those documents online. With the unofficial documents, we can provide what we call conditional acceptance, which basically means you can use it to apply for your study permit and you can register for courses. But to get your final acceptance, you will need to submit your official documents, meaning either they need to be verified by the issuing institution, or the issuing institution needs to send them directly to our school. Once we have those, then we can go ahead and provide final acceptance. But until then, we can only offer conditional.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Another question from Alicia Valdez. How would be a successful audition for theater? Any advice or any tip that you could provide her?
So I'm actually not involved with the process of auditioning. I have very little attachment to that section. This is going to sound like a really silly answer, but be a good actress. That is the best advice I can give. That said, what I will do is in the chat, I will post the email address for the head of the department. His name is Mr. Jerry Etienne. Jerry is the head of the theater department, and basically he's the guy that you will do your audition for. He is the one who evaluates all the auditions, and he's the one who determines who gets in and who doesn't. So if you look at the chat there, I've posted his email address. You can contact him and he can give you some more advice on what the expectations are for that audition.
Ok, perfecto. Entonces, Thomas nos está dejando aquí el correo electrónico para que podamos dar seguimiento. Si tienen igual alguna pregunta o comentario, pueden acercarse directamente a nosotros para que nosotros los podamos llevar de la mano y poder ponerlos en contacto. Okay, thank you, Thomas. Another question from Carla Arriaga. Hi, I would like to ask, how is tuition paid? I mean, installments, all-in-one payment, or any recommendation for budgeting?
Absolutely. So all tuition and ancillary fees are due by the first day of class. So that would typically be the first Wednesday in September. That's usually when classes start at Memorial. You are able to pay them after that date. However, if you do pay them after that date, then you will be charged $75 Canadian as a late fee. And if they're not paid by the end of the semester, then you won't be able to register for courses for the fall. The advantage is that your fees are paid on a semesterly rather than an annual basis. So that $11,460, that's 1 year. You pay half in September, half in January.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. In terms of recommendation for budgeting, like I said, typically 21 to 22,000 is probably like a safe guess for budget. Keep track of your expenditures. Think about the kinds of things that you typically spend money on, that sort of thing. I've just realized that I didn't actually include the information about housing in this presentation. But if you are looking for accommodations, I would typically recommend living on campus versus off campus. On campus, you're probably looking at around, probably around 4,000 to 5,000 a year at Grenville. Whereas off campus, your expenses are probably going to be a little bit more, just because you have to factor in rent, utilities, you have to factor in Wi-Fi, transportation, furniture, all these different numbers. So typically, I would say for budgeting, if you want to keep your budget low, live on campus.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so Si alguna de las respuestas que nos está dando Tom no está clara, por favor, me lo dejan saber en el chat o en el Q&A section para clarificar un poco más acerca de su pregunta. Carla Fuentes nos pregunta, if we've got Carla, corrígeme si estoy mal, nos acompañas de Kipling, ¿verdad? If we have any interest student that didn't have any IB program, would they have to take an additional course?
No, if you came from like the national curriculum, or if you came from any other curriculum other than IB, there's no need for additional courses. There are some curriculums that require it. If you're coming from Mexico, typically you're able to gain direct entry. So it shouldn't matter. If you do have any particular questions, like if you want to send me a transcript after, like I said, go to my email and I can take a look and let you know if you'll need anything else. Usually, no, you don't need anything.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Carla Fuentes, in fact, she is guidance counselor and psychologist at Kipling here in Mexico. So I will share with her your contact information just in case she want to clarify on a specific topic with you.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to set up a meeting there.
Thank you, Carla. Muchísimas gracias por participar. Bienvenida. Te manda un saludo, Alejandra. Also, Carla is asking, could you please explain how would you take into account a diploma degree and what GPA are you asking?
So I assume you're talking about like a post-secondary diploma?
Déjame especificar. Hola, Carla. Sí sería... hola, ¿de qué manera toman en cuenta el programa de diploma en Memorial University? Vamos a dar un segundo. I am asking Carla if she could...
While Carla is providing a response, I will respond to the other question there about presenting pieces to the visual arts department. Mm-hmm. I apologize again if I mispronounced your name, Jacobo. There's like Jerry Etienne for the theater department. Miss Ingrid Percy is the person you want to talk to about the VA portfolio. Again, it sounds silly, but be good at art is the best advice I can give myself. But if you contact Professor Percy at the email that I just posted in the chat, then you'll be able to find, she'll be able to give you the information that you'll need for that. Okay,
Carla is saying yes. What would be the GPA to enter into the diploma?
Mm-hmm. So typically, if you're transferring from another post-secondary program, or if you've completed a post-secondary program already and want to come over, then you would need typically a minimum of 2.0 on a 4-point scale.
Okay, perfect. And another one from Carla Barajas. Is it acceptable if one student finishes the high school degree in a homeschooling program?
Yes, but in cases like that, then typically what would need to happen is that all homeschooled students are addressed on a case-by-case basis. Typically, we would have to take a look at anything that you've completed to date. Admissions would have to get involved. It's a little bit more complicated. We absolutely do accept homeschooled students. It's just it may take a couple extra weeks to process your application because there are those extra steps to determine the equivalent of what you've done versus, say, the standard curriculum for the country that you're applying from.
Okay, so it would depend, but yes, we can accept any certifiable document, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Gracias, Carla, por la pregunta. Which is the most scholarship the university offer?
12,000.
12,000 is the highest scholarship.
Yeah, it's one time on entry. So typically it would cover your first year of tuition. And again, it's exclusively based on academic merit. So it's only based on your grades, not on anything else.
Okay, thank you, Jacobo, for your question. Do we have any other one?
I think Carla asked me to repeat the IB requirement there. Minimum 24 overall in your IB diploma. Typically, that would include your English, mathematics, a lab science, a social science, and then one more elective.
Okay, thank you, Carla. Thank you, Thomas. Any other question for now? If not now, again, we are sharing Thomas' contact information, so you can be in contact with him. And this session is being recorded, so you will have access through our social media, YouTube and Facebook. And I think we don't have any other question right now. Carla is asking if we could have any mock class with Memorial University and with the high school students from Kipling. So I think we can arrange a mock class with you and with Thomas.
The best thing to do there, if you do want to arrange a mock class, reach out to me. I wouldn't be the person who coordinates it, but I can get you in touch with the people who do coordinate it. So let me know exactly what it is that you're looking for in terms of a mock class, and I will try to make the connections work where we can.
Sure, Thomas. And yes, Carla, sí podemos, a través de Team Up for Education, podemos arreglar algo con Memorial University y con Thomas. And I think that would be all for now. Thomas, excellent, Carla. Okay, so Thomas, thank you again so much for your presentation. I think this is the last one from you. We will have here in the next presentation, and we really appreciate the fact that you had the time to share with us all this information.
Perfect, thank you. And if you guys have any questions, again, my email is there. Please reach out, and I look forward to hearing from some of you.
Thank you, Thomas. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.